But I mean, I've been reading over some of the book, like I have been given a few textbooks from some social work classes by the professor to read over, and I haven't read much so far, but what I have read, what it's made me think is what they're taught in the classroom has, I mean, of course it's, got educational value, but what what child protection workers are doing is they're going into people's homes and saying, I don't like the way you parent. I don't think what you're doing is appropriate. Well, it's not supposed to be what she thinks. They're supposed to be based on what society thinks is okay for today. So that means if this was in the day where it was okay to burn witches at the stake, then hey, you guys have been burning witches at the stake, no problem there. If that's what was acceptable with society, they're supposed to go with what the norm is. They're not supposed to bring in, and I'm not saying that that's good either, I'm just saying they're not supposed to bring in their own personal, well, I don't like you, I went to school with you, and I know you, and I don't think you should have your kids. That sort of thing should not be coming up.
I was just listening very carefully to the words you're using to describe what social workers do. Social workers have a knack for using the word appropriate for everything. Right?
Do they ever?
Appropriate simply means
no,
I don't
not
like
appropriate.
it. I don't like it. Who are they to tell you that that's the right way?
Yeah.
There's a value-laden assertion being made there. Assertion that's being made is value-laden. It's based on their own belief system. The moment you say, I think it is inappropriate, you just told me, I don't think I like this.
Right.
The better question is, who are you to tell me you don't?
So then it's like people have to stop being judgmental and critical, and we get back to what you were saying, where people learn about the science, where data shows about the brain and the nurturing and the nature, and how well and loving that person is, and to bring those qualities out in people and to implement that in society so people can, and the judges should be looking into the hearts and souls of people and looking at the love in the family.
If they were thinking of the best interest of the children, and we would, if decisions were being made that affected children in a positive manner, we wouldn't have 10,000 children in foster care right now, and we wouldn't have, the increase that's going to happen in the years to come happening, because we'd be taking care of that by taking care of our children.
Well, this all began with the natives, right? I mean, they went in and said, you're not a part of society. Yeah, you're not a part of society. You're not a part of our society, so we're taking your children to teach them how our society lives, and then we'll bring them back to you and they'll teach you.
Oh, that was
and a prime example
all those schools were slave labor.
Yeah, but a prime example of what how children don't know to speak out against an adult. But I mean, if you watch the movie Rabbit Proof Fence, I mean, that one little girl that just forget it and walks 800 miles home, children like that are rare. They don't know that it's okay
she was
to speak
brought up
out
by
when
her
something is
parents
wrong.
how to survive in that wilderness and get
see, all these examples are rooted in the way science used to be implemented. Up until 95 to 2000, science was deemed to be something that you did to predict things. Like, if I did this, that will happen. It just so happens with the shift in science, which is recent, we have all come to the conclusion that science is nothing more than having a role to report and write down how things changed when you modify them from outside. You don't predict anything, right? What that means is that the arrogance of scientists in the past, who were highly cerebral, I got the information,
highly cerebral, I like that remark.
Okay? And the new scientists, and I would like to think of myself as one of them, we don't hook up with you from the brain. We hook up from you, and with you from the heart, because that's where it's set. You're supposed to sense things. You're supposed to notice how people are changing according to the way that you modifying things.
That's a sensitivity, though.
Yes.
And we're in a society where we're becoming completely insensitive with television and loud noises.
Right. So if you have
nature.
If you have a discipline in social science like social work that is still going by the old system, then what you've got is a bunch of people walking away from that school opinionated and judgmental. And what I'm saying to you, the judgment has no room in science.
And I personally think that social workers should have to. I mean, not that there aren't judgmental and opinionated nurses, but we spend a lot of time in nursing school learning how not to push our own opinions on patients or let our opinions or judgments be known. And the same should be true of social workers, that they come out totally brainwashed of their own opinions.
But you see, this can be given a very simple example in the way people talk. You said before, that's the norm. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's all science. We went by what was normal. We looked around, jotted the numbers down, majority does this. Okay, that's got to be the science. But I'm saying to you, I don't use the word that's normal. To me, it has to be that's natural.
Mm-hmm. Natural.
Mm.
No, I was explaining how social services is, like what I read was that they're supposed to go by society's idea of what's acceptable.
Let me take it back for a second. What is society's idea? Didn't we talk about earlier that it's
well, where's society? Are they sitting around talking about what's acceptable? Like there should be a huge group of people that decide if a child truly needs to be apprehended, including the RCMP. Especially the RCMP, because if a child needs to be removed from the home, there had to have been criminal activity going on.
Yeah, well, I have problems with that, you know. I even have problems with that. Because sometimes criminal activity is not really criminal, it's just in the mind of the cop.
Well, I'm talking about, in my opinion,
for some people.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, if a child's being, you know, I have seen a case where, and where's social services when this occurs? I have seen a case where a man who had 6 children, 6 very young children, was, you know, severe, like abusing them right out in public, like, you know, slashing them with metal chains, pouring boiling water over his kids' hands, like lots of very damaging physical abuse. And they took away 1 of those 6 children. 1.
Because the other 5 hadn't been so severely abused.
Oh yes, they had been.
No, yes, that they could prove.
Well, come on. I mean, if one child is so severely beaten regularly, please.
I agree with that. But you see, we're going into a dead end here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not what social workers did or didn't in that case. The real problem is, why is that man doing that to his children?
Mm.
Exactly. I mean, even in, but I'm saying that would be like, because I actually witnessed some of it. In my opinion, that man might be, you know, one of the exceptions that I think should never be allowed to see his children unless it's supervised until he's had major work.
Okay, but you see what I mean? If social workers or social services had done their work the way they're supposed to do it, then parenting skills, all kinds of support, counseling and therapy would have been available to that man before he even did that. Because the idea is that social services is supposed to instill in people, see, you might not need the service now, but this is where you come to if you do.
Mm-hmm.
Social services now, it really limits itself to wait until something terrible happens to step in and mess it up even worse.
But what do you think of that when they take one child, you know, from a parent? I mean, obviously, if a parent's not, how do they say a parent's okay to parent one child and not the other? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, where are they even coming from? Like, well, that's ridiculous.
Here's another one. If a social worker, instead of a cabinet minister, if something goes wrong, cabinet gets shuffled. That cabinet minister is gone. But what about all the people that caused the problem? They never account to anyone for that. It's always a cabinet minister that loses their job. Mm-hmm. But all those people that caused the problem, they're still there. They still have their license. And they're the people that never ever go before a board because there is no board.